Well, President Trump moments ago responding to the latest bluster from North Korea's state-run news agency, KCNA, stating that the U.S. was, quote, no more than a lump which we can beat to a jelly anytime. Listen.
Let me hear others say it, because when you say that, I don't know what you're referring to and who's making the statement. But let me hear Kim Jong-un say it, okay? He's not saying it. He hasn't been saying much for the last 3 days.
Joining me now to discuss what must be done to end the North Korean tensions and more, Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer, Senior Fellow with the London Center for Policy Research. Colonel Shaffer, I don't want to read too much in what the President just said, but he did lead to a suspicion of some parts that maybe something has happened to the leader, the North Korean leader. Do you know anything about that?
No, I think, as usual, and look, we've been studying the situation in North Korea for a long time. Those leaders tend to speak with great bluster and then back off, and this is a part of a pattern. What I think may be different here, though, is going to be the result of this, because when we had dealt with Kim Jong-il and Kim Il-sung, the father and son of we would always cave in. There was always a policy of appeasement.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what we're walking up to, and President Trump's made it very clear that, there's going to be no appeasement this time, and I think that may be what they're trying to do, is try to figure out, is President Trump really serious? And I'm sure President Trump is very serious.
Well, and as serious as I think he is as well, you can still have diplomacy. There is room for both.
Precisely.
Some people say it's a good cop, bad cop. I say it's diplomacy without appeasement. And I would single out one person there, and that's General Mattis, who is a tough Marine general. He knows how to be tough, but he also knows how to be diplomatic, and he showed kind of both sides of that. He sent a message earlier in the week that was pretty tough by tweet.
Right.
He said, cease any consideration of actions that would lead to the end of its regime and destruction of its people. Now, that's no holds barred. But then listen to what he said a little bit later.
Right now, Secretary Tillerson, Ambassador Haley, you can see the American effort is diplomatically led. It has diplomatic traction. It is gaining diplomatic results. And I want to stay right there, right now. The tragedy of war is well enough known. It doesn't need another characterization beyond the fact that it would be catastrophic.
Now, of course, the mainstream media jumped on that and said he's just an example of the mixed messages coming out of the Trump administration. What do you say?
Not at all. Look, I've talked to folks at the Pentagon before and after the misinterpretation of this. Look, it is in our interest to make sure that the North Koreans both understand that there's military might that will be used if necessary, as well as a path out. You don't want to put an animal in a corner and give it no option but to fight. We don't want to fight here. So I see General Mattis's words as very wise. And more clearly here, I think, we're trying to message to the Chinese as well. The Chinese stated today that they would be neutral in a fight should the North Koreans attack us. Look, David, that's not acceptable. The fact is, we're here because of the Chinese allowing the North Koreans to develop these weapons. So I think Mattis is saying, and very clearly, as part of a unified strategy and communications plan to say what's necessary to move the ball forward.
And lest we forget, I mean, there have been presidents and diplomats that have preceded this administration that did do what I would call appeasement with regard to the North Koreans.
Absolutely.
And the proof is these agreements that they extracted from the North Koreans, which essentially were gifts to the North Koreans, they led to the development of nuclear weapons by the North Koreans. They led to the developments of ICBMs by the North Korean dictators. And these people are barbarians. So we did appease the barbarians, did we not?
Right. Oh, we did. The 94 agreement gave them 2 nuclear plants, and they used those plants to increase their number of nuclear weapons.
You know, that's worth emphasizing. We literally helped them develop the nuclear weapons that we're now trying to destroy. It's nuts.
And I don't want to distract, but we have similar frameworks now in place with the Iranians. A lot of people, as a matter of fact, some of the same people who negotiated the 94 agreement were part of the negotiation for the Iran agreement. So this is no small issue.
Well, let me ask you about the Iranians, because some people say, as important as the Chinese are, the Iranians may have become even more important. They clearly are benefiting from the success that the North Koreans have had in technology, and they have a lot of cash. So they could substitute the cash that perhaps, even if the Chinese sanctions were successful and they pulled back, wouldn't the Iranians step right in?
They already have. That's why we've seen the rapid progress in the North Korean program. Some of the money we gave the Iranians went to the North Koreans as an outsourcing of technology research. And so, yeah, we're being kind of less than wise the way we deal with these rogue nations.
And the other thing to remember, besides the ICBMs, the fact that the North Koreans have miniaturized nuclear weapons. Of course, Iran has very close ties. They invented Hezbollah with terrorist organizations. A miniaturized nuke in the hands of a terrorist is a pretty frightening thing.
And that's one of the concerns that we've been talking about both amongst intelligence officers and the Pentagon is, yes, you don't necessarily have to have an effective ballistic missile capability to use a weapon. And that's one of the concerns. They would sell it or give it to someone for use in one of our ports. It would be very bad.